We ready?
Seventh, 2024 meeting of the Forsyth County Board of Education to order. We have an agenda before us. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Motion by Tom, second by Mike. All in favor? Unanimous. If we could all stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone. Today, we don't have a lot on our for our work session, but we do have some policies that we're going to go over and review. So to start with, we're going to review policy BHA, which is the board members' conflict of interest.
Okay, just for the sake of our public that may be watching or listening to this, we are going through the process of reviewing all of our policies. We decided to do that at our retreat in January. So the first one is Board Policy BHA, Board Member Conflict of Interest. This was adopted back on February 17, 2011. There has been no amendment since that time. There also has not been any changes in state statute. So I do not have any recommended changes, but I didn't know if you guys a chance to look at it, and if you have anything that you think we need to look at. This could be the shortest work session in the history of work sessions.
Unless you guys have something.
Yeah, right. Okay, the second one, Board Policy BHB, nepotism, also adopted back in 2011 in August. Again, no changes since that time, no changes in state legislation that would require us to make any changes. Are you guys okay with that policy as written?
Yes.
Okay. And finally, the last one is Board Policy IKBC, material harmful to minors. This was not one that we were originally scheduled to review, but a couple of board members asked me to put it on the agenda just because of some comments that have been made recently in the public. So I just want to make a couple of comments and then give you a chance to make any question or have any questions or comments. Back in 21-22, we all remember school districts all over the country saw a huge increase in the number of books being challenged. That was a national movement. We certainly were dealing with that issue here. In 2022, the Georgia General Assembly enacted legislation in an attempt to define what was meant by the term harmful to minors in order to provide school districts in Georgia with direction to deal with any challenged material. Anytime the legislature adopts new laws and the governor signs it, then as a board, we have to adopt policies to align with that new state statute. And so we did that in 2022. That's when this policy was adopted. During the 22-23 school year, you will remember, we had several books challenged at the school level, and we actually had several books that were appealed to the board level, and you guys dealt with them in accordance with the state statute and our new policy. To my knowledge, this school year, 23-24, we have not had any books challenged at the school level, correct? And so obviously, we've not had anything come to the board either. But there is one other point I want to make clear, and I think this is where there might be some confusion, and I just want to say this to our public. Board members are not and have never been involved in the selection of materials for media centers. That has always been a function of our media center specialists. Our Chief Technology Officer, Mike Evans, is here today. He is the leader of that department, but also with him is Lisa Newberry, our district media specialist, and they work with our media specialists now more than ever on the selection of new materials. So I just wanted to make that clear that, again, that is not the function of a board member or the board as a whole to select materials for our media centers. We do that with the professionals in our school system who are trained to do that. So I just wanted to clear that up. With that, are there any questions or comments board members might have? Tom?
Yeah, the only one I have, couple of them. To start with, the complaints have to be filed by a parent or permanent guardian, not a board member, but a parent or permanent guardian. And from that school and submitted to the school, to the principal, to the leader of that school. So that's the process and how it starts. And so when we say we haven't got any of those, nobody's filed those complaints. When they submitted in writing, I know we had some comments earlier about the writing and what was expected in that complaint. Is there a format for that? Is there something out there as a guideline?
So there is a form, and I know that Mike and Lisa and I had tried to put together some suggestions, and we shared it with the legislators and also Frontline Policy, who's the one who implemented this policy, just because there were unintended consequences, and you all did a great job. And so I'm hoping that maybe it'll take some effect or take some take some bite next session so that we can get it, worked out better. Yeah, refined, because as it is now, I mean, nothing has changed, and we'd still like to see the process change so that it can better reflect the needs of our community and what the actual policy is looking to do. So.
Right. Anytime we have an opportunity to provide legislative input for the direction, so I really appreciate you working with Lisa on that one as well. The form that the parents fill out, the form has also been vetted by our board attorney as well. And it is designed to give adequate information so that when they're submitting the request for why they feel this is harmful to minors, it gives that full context around why they're submitting the challenge in the first
So it's
place.
pretty clear on the website.
We have process. I believe we have all of the processes on the website, and everything really initiates with the parent or guardian initiating conversation with the school principal. Because again, depending on what the challenge might be, it might be a divisive concepts. It might be a concern that they have that might fall underneath the IFBD policy for other materials in media centers as well. So the principal is where the conversation should start, so that they know how to guide that
They
conversation.
would guide them through
Exactly.
that process.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
that's clear.
Okay.
I do have a
Anybody?
question. So I'm perfectly good with adding this to the agenda because, it's consistent with our policy, and if a board member wants to talk about something, I think that's great. What I'm a little bit confused about is what happened? What precipitated this? Because I haven't heard anything about books.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of calls with the confusion around why the board members can't fix this problem. And so just to kind of keep it clear and understanding, the policy drives it, so that's why we're doing what we're doing.
Which problem? About the books?
About the books, yeah.
Do we have a problem with books?
Seemingly, the community's calling me, asking me about it. So that's why I decided to go ahead and review this, so we have a clear understanding of how to go about dealing with it if they do have concern about books.
I think if, a book hasn't been submitted and now it's, May, and people are worried about certain books still being in there, then I think it's good for the public to know how to go about and do it. And then also too, that we're still, working on hopefully revising it.
Yeah, just trying to clarify the hard stuff that we work on and trying to get clear practice
Are you
in
saying
place.
to revise this policy?
No,
Well,
No,
I would like to see
just to
the
understand it.
law revised, but I mean, I didn't ask for it to be on the agenda for the law to be revised. I'm just saying that we had worked, the legislators put out laws, and sometimes without asking the educators that are working directly in the field. And so I would hope that moving forward, they could work with the educators or the experts in the field, because there were unintended consequences that came out of the law. But I think as a board, we did a really good job in finding a solution to that, so.
I mean, what I would say is I hope we're not, if we know or are aware of content that is objectionable, I hope we're not waiting for a parent to fill out a form to get rid of that. I would hope we're taking care of that on our own, and which is what we've heard from staff in the past, that we are taking care of these things. So is that still the case? Are we being deliberate about making sure this kind of content is not making its way into the schools?
I mean, certified media specialists have the authority to remove books, correct?
That's correct, Lindsay, when we identify books that we think would not be appropriate for the kids.
Sorry.
When we identify those books, they are taken out of the collection. But keep in mind, we have 40,000 different titles in our media center. There's no way that we can vet all of those books. We look at reviews, things like that, and
and we have changed practice, I guess, with bringing on new content.
yes.
So that's the other half.
But even then, sometimes things slip through the cracks because the reviews don't always tell us what's in the books. They'll leave things out.
From the community and parents, what is right or wrong. And so that's why we put it back in their court to start that process if they find something offensive, to deal with it through a practice and process.
And that's one reason why we asked them to, in writing, tell us what was wrong, because previously they would say, oh, I don't like this book, it's about sex. Well, what part of it do you not like, and what
Real clear.
is
And that's where
explicit about it? Because sometimes it would mention sex, but it was to teach a child things not to do or things to look out for. So it was actually teaching a moral lesson, but the parents wouldn't read the entire book, so they would just kind of cherry pick different things. I've seen a couple of books like that.
Well, we have a couple of books come to us
We
as
did-
a
we
board,
did.
and
That- I
and
was
we
gonna make a-
evaluated them, and we went through our process, and
Yeah.
so, the process in place is working for me.
Yeah, and I would say a couple comments. Number one, one of the things we did proactively, and we did it internally, is we had created a system so parents could be notified at the end of the day if the child checked out a book, if they had that concern. So that was something we did, back to the point of parental choice. And then when you guys decided on books, again, you put it back in the corner of the parents, where the books weren't removed completely. If the child requested it and the parent agreed that they could have that book, then that book would be made available. So I think we have tried really hard to give our parents as much choice and flexibility as possible. What were you
Yeah,
going to say?
y'all had 7 books that came your way over the course of the last year and a half or
Right.
2 years. And 2 of them you voted to retain or keep, and then there were 5 that you voted to retain, but added the stipulation, as Dr. Bearden alluded to, about adding the parental signature as well. And with the parents getting notified, we ran a report today, and we have over 30,000 students who have parents that have signed up to receive notifications for books that are being checked out. Over 30,000.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, which is fantastic. And again, it just shows the level of involvement that our parents have, and just doing our due diligence to make sure that they're aware and they
Well,
have
and
that choice. and
Kudos to
involvement.
you, because you created that internally, right?
We did,
Because the
yeah.
company we had was going to help us, and then it went political, and they refused to, and you did that internally. So
Yeah.
kudos to you.
They gave us some suggestions, and then we figured out a way that we could kind of incorporate that with Infinite Campus. But yeah, Lisa and Jason Nail did a great job getting that going. So it's, again, great information for the parents to have.
I mean, and this is only a hypothesis, but I think one of the reasons we haven't seen any challenges this year is the way you guys handled it last year. I think we sent a really clear message. We were going to give parental voice and parental choice, and I think most parents appreciated and respected that. And because of that, this has not been an issue this particular academic year.
Yeah,
Charlie, I think you were going to say
agree.
something.
I think last year, when the enabling legislation came into play in January of '23, this particular board has taken a lot of action, and we've passed policy, and we've entertained 7 challenges. And
Right.
I think the most important thing is that we've all sent from this boardroom a message to the public. I think this is the 3rd time that we're putting an end to this, that we're not letting it come in to the best of our ability, and that we're being proactive about identifying and removing it. I think that's what's causing calm in the community. If that's not the case, then probably people are going to be less calm in the near future. But I think it is. Definitely seems to be the case. So
I think there's sometimes a misunderstanding about roles and responsibilities of board members, because it's such a unique position. And I think sometimes there's an assumption that the board is more involved in certain things than they actually are. I mean, to think that board members are going to select 40,000 books for a media center, I mean, when you put it in that context, we think, well, of course not, that wouldn't happen. And so I think it's sometimes a good reminder to the public what your roles and responsibilities are, and then you have a professional staff that really is in the weeds in terms of ordering materials and going through materials. And not only have you removed materials that are inappropriate, but you've removed materials that haven't been checked out.
Right.
And they're just sitting on the shelf gathering dust. And so there's not an interest there, so it's good to weed those things out.
So you're saying we can't add my Kindle wish list to the collection?
Totally up to you.
So, all that being said, we're all good with this policy.
Yeah, I appreciate
Good
you
as it
adding
can
that. I
be.
know it opens a door we don't like opening, but at the same time, it gives the real information and the right process out. And that's what we're about, is process.
Okay, do I have a motion to go into executive session for personnel?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Tom, second by Mike. All in favor? Unanimous.